Hello, this is Justin with Green Residential, a licensed home inspector and a licensed insurance adjuster. Welcome to the Housing Show. This is Leon over here. He is the owner and founder of Green Residential, and I wanted to introduce him to you. He will be also asking me questions, so let's get started.
All right. Well, yeah, today is thought it would be good as we start this new show to introduce the host, Mr. Justin Payon himself. Just to let you know who he is, what his background is, and just give some insight into the variety of topics that we'll be covering in this show. And so without further ado, Justin, how long have we known each other?
I don't know, 6-7 years.
Okay, yeah,
A while.
Time flies. What were you doing? How did our relationship come to be?
Well, I was originally a subcontractor for Green Residential, and through a process of events, I ended up joining the team. And I've kind of done many different things. I've done home inspections. But yeah, it's been a journey.
So yeah, you were at the time you had your own business. You know, you were doing handyman, general contracting work, small to larger projects, and we wanted to bring somebody in-house to bring in expertise, so that we could provide that service to our clients. And then that morphed into you became a licensed home inspector. You know, what was it about the home inspection industry or profession that, you know, interested you to become licensed?
I am a nerd when it comes to building. I like to know the process. I like to know the details. So it was an easy fit for me. Going in, examining stuff, seeing what's right, seeing what's wrong. It was an easy fit. It was natural, like I said. It was a natural.
Did you know, discovering, you know, what a licensed home inspector is, what it took to become an inspector, was that process, did it feel more natural compared to when you decided to start your own contracting business and actually doing some of the work with your own hands? What, you know, describe the difference between that decision and experience versus, you know, pursuing becoming a licensed home inspector?
Well, being a contractor, of course, you're always, as a contractor, you want to do the job right. You want to do the best job you can do. So bringing that into the inspection world gave me really a bigger understanding of what the process is. But to me, having that real world experience in the construction industry just made things click.
Yeah.
Very easy. If you're going from the construction industry into inspecting, it's really a natural progression. Going from something completely different into inspections, that could be a bit of a learning curve.
Would you say that, like, starting your own business and, you know, choosing to go into general construction, was that birthed out of necessity, or was that birthed out of, like, passion?
You could say a bit of both.
Okay. If you had to err on one side or the other.
I enjoy building. So I find great fulfillment in that. So I enjoy getting my hands dirty in a project many times. Of course, as you get older, you got to be careful. You don't want to be doing dumb stuff like you did when you're younger. So I think going from that into inspections was I liked it. I like that transition.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you hear people talk about job, or, you know, if it's somebody in college thinking about what career they're going to explore, they often use the term, you know, what your passion is. And, you know, I've been on the planet long enough that, you know, what I've learned is passion is something that you typically find in the process. You know, we all need to have a job. We need to have something to do. We need to earn money. And so if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, you come up with an idea. may not be what you're passionate about. It may just be what somebody will pay you to do. And so you get going, and then in that process, you learn what you like, what you don't like, and then new doors get opened up. And I think, like, since I've known you, you know, I would say as from an outsider looking in, it seemed like there were components of construction that you really liked. But you know, what I've learned about you is that you have the skill set and way of thinking that lines up very much with an inspector. You like black and white. You like having a property code that you can read, understand, and then look at reality and see how it lines up, and document, you know, how everything, you know, what's in code, what's out of code, and that's the job. You know, and so I think, you know, you started something that had the like components of what you liked, and then you started really honing in with, how am I made? You know, like, what is my natural gifting, and how does it fit within this industry? And then you start finding these things that you're actually passionate about. Like you'll spend, it's not just going to get a job done, but you'll spend extra time looking into it because it's more like a hobby. There's an actual interest.
That is true. I'll spend my free time reading building code.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird.
I just have a love of learning the right way to do something, and that is very important to me. So I like it is a passion. When I discovered home inspections, it was just a natural fit. It was me. It was a way that I could express that side of me that wants to figure things out, make sure it's done right, and so I when I had my own company, I aimed for that. When I became an inspector, I really deep dived into code, and I still do. So it's another outlet for that kind of thing that makes me tick.
Yeah. So how long had you been in the construction industry before you became a licensed home inspector?
Years. 15 years maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it's important because, like, we live in a day and age where everything is immediate. And, you know, I think it's just a valuable life lesson that some of the greatest joys that you'll find didn't start out that way from the beginning. It required repetition for long periods of time, and, you know, just dedication and hard work. And then those things kind of blossom in the process, and that creates new opportunities on the backbone of experience. And so I think that's a really cool part of your story. So you also then became a licensed insurer.
Insurance adjuster.
Insurance adjuster, which is a totally, you know, it's leveraging the skill set you had, and also bringing in a new frame of thought. So I know you also worked in private equity funds with, you know, internally we were raising capital and buying single family homes across the state of Texas. Just talk a little bit about your experience in that, what you did, and, you know, what you liked, and just, you know, how that lined up with your skill set.
Yeah. I honestly feel that was just another great match. We would get a house. I mean, it could be something from the 1930s, and you have to go in there and analyze the condition of the house. And more so than that, you have to go in there and be able to put a price tag on the repairs, which is really challenging to do for an older house. The moment you start tearing into it, I mean, many times it's opening Pandora's box. Yeah. So you have to be able to preempt a lot of that, and your take on the house is important, because a lot of times it will determine whether or not we should purchase the house.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I mean, we were really busy. I had like, I don't know, 20, 30 houses. I was
we were
involved. All at different stages. Like, I would basically go in, do an inspection on the house. Should we buy this? If if we thought it was worth it, then we would take it to the next phase, try to put a dollar amount on the repair, and then I would actually manage that repair, oversee the contractors. So it was my baby from start to finish, pretty much, once it got put on the market.
You know what? I mean, during like every year, we were buying 200 houses.
Yeah, man, we were busy.
Yeah, it was fast paced.
Yes, my days were spent just driving from one place to the next, but it was a lot of fun, and it really is. Even that was it was an amazing opportunity, a great learning experience if you want to really kind of get into the nuts and bolts of different houses at different points in American history, how they're built, what to look out for. Like a typical house from the 70s, you're going to have most likely galvanized. Well, that galvanized piping, those water supplies, they're most likely at the end of their life. They have a 40-year lifespan. So you have to be able to go in there and know that kind of stuff and know how much it's going to cost to change that out. And it was cool. It was,
and a lot of those houses had, you know, homeowners or tenants occupying them when you're inspecting them. So there's furniture, there's clothes, there's old junk, there's all sorts of fun stories involved in that process. So it is an art, and it's a skill that really builds on itself, because, you know, homes are constructed oftentimes in neighborhoods by the same development company. And so if you find one house that doesn't have insulation behind the cabinets, then it's likely that all of the homes in that neighborhood are that way. And so you can take that knowledge, and if you buy more houses, then you can budget that into the cost up front. So that's, you know, you've got general construction, you've owned your own business, you're a licensed home inspector, you've been a licensed insurance adjuster, you've been a project manager for a single family rental private equity fund. You know, it's all a very wide breadth of experience. You know, you were in that process doing different YouTube videos where you would just teach people about little, you know, basic things of houses and how they function. And, you know, I found myself, as you were off doing the work in the private equity fund, listening to these videos. And, you know, I always like listening to you. Something about your voice, there was this, I've said it, it's not a perfect correlation, but there's a Mr. Rogers-esque component to the way that you teach. Like there was you could tell that you enjoyed teaching other people and making seemingly complex things very understandable for somebody like myself. And you made it fun to listen to. And so I kept watching your videos, and I hadn't put the story together in my head of how you could maximize that gift and interest until one day you shared something with me. Do you know what that is?
Nope.
It was this other talent that you have, and it was something that you were doing in your pastime, and it involved charts. Can you tell us about this other love of yours that is outside of the real estate industry?
Sure. So I have been into technical analysis for many, many, many years. Probably similar to, well, not quite as long as construction, but a very long time. And I will burn the midnight oil trying to solve puzzles when it comes to charts and technical analysis. So
when did you discover that you had this interest? I mean, like, was this revealing itself when you were a kid, or how, like, when did you connect the desire with the chart?
I think I really, so it was in the great financial recession.
Okay.
That I got interested, and I just saw this. I saw charts, and I was just like, this makes perfect sense to me. So I pursued it. I learned I was always like reading, bought tons of books. And I became fairly good at what I would do. And then I got disillusioned with some of the techniques. So then I invested time and effort into learning, exploring discovering
Yeah.
new techniques to use in my technical analysis. So yeah, so that is
So, I'm a big believer that the preacher is preaching before he gets a pulpit to preach from.
mhm.
So, this, and what would you say, what were you doing that was fulfilling that desire of like, technical analysis? Like you aimed it towards charts.
Mhm.
Was that the same gifting and desire that was fulfilled in like learning the licensed home inspecting industry? Or
I would say it's actually related. To me, it's figuring out puzzles.
Okay.
It's there's an unknown, and I want to figure out how to do it. What's the best way? With code, it's learning the technicals of what creates a acceptable system, whatever it is, a house, a plumbing system, a structural system. With charts, it's figuring out, solving what is going on here. Just it's to me, I look at it as a puzzle.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think even that skill set alone is we work with a lot of people within our organization. I know a lot of people in the business community. And, I think the ability to look at the unknown and view it as a challenge
mhm,
and not be intimidated by it,
mhm,
but to, tackle how do I go about solving this problem or understanding this new thing.
mhm,
It's something that is not, you can't teach that. I think education is, a big part of education is not necessarily the subject matter, but,
mhm,
training the mind to take a problem and then solve it
mhm,
and to critically think about things.
mhm,
So I think that the way that you're wired there is very, is unique. And also it makes having a show interesting because you have, over the course of your life, dove into many different issues
mhm,
and probably sought after an understanding at a very granular level that allows you to then teach others and bring things at a very basic
mhm,
understanding. I think it sometimes requires the most intelligence in order to communicate things in the most simple way. And I know in my own life that I always seek to understand things,
mhm,
and my mind won't let me stop until I feel like I get to the root of whatever it is I'm trying to figure out.
mhm,
And I will dedicate so much focus and brain power in a very concentrated period of time.
mhm.
And sometimes it takes years, some maybe learning something about yourself or some life thing that,
Mhm.
you want to understand, why do we do it that way?
Yeah.
And it's not obvious. There's no book. And so, I found that years after I've studied something,
Mhm.
I'll share a thought with somebody and they'll be like, wow, that was insightful. And I'm thinking to myself, you have no idea how much time I've dedicated to that one thought,
Yeah.
that plagued me for years.
Yeah.
But I think it is that kind of thought at a deeper level that makes, that gives you the ability to teach,
Mhm,
that gives you the ability to present things,
mhm,
because you've thought so much about them.
mhm,
And so I'm excited. I think, I viewed you as a, a construction technician within our company. And so I formed opinions about, how is Justin as a,
mhm,
somebody who is managing construction projects, um, and I knew you had these these licensed home inspector talents. I knew you liked black and white. I knew you liked the gray area, made you a little bit uncomfortable.
mhm,
But I had no idea it's technical analysis, but it's also, I heard this podcast that you created, and this was your own time. This was not for pay. You brought this level of animation and excitement in your voice, and I mean, you're analyzing charts like it seemed like it looked like an EKG report or something where it elevated your intelligence level in my own mind, because it was no longer just construction. It was like you were doing things that you really love doing, and you could hear the enjoyment in your voice. And it something stood out to me as like, man, we need to let others hear more of you and what you're interested in, because sometimes it's not even that we want to learn about a particular subject. Like I think like going back to Mr. Rogers, like I think there's an educational component to what he wanted to accomplish, but I think there was also this other component that people enjoyed listening to him because they gave them this sense of there may be chaos in the world, but while you spend time watching this show, all is well. It's going to be okay. Yeah. And I think you have that component of, it allows the inner child in us just to sit back, relax, enjoy, learn something new for the day. Don't be overwhelmed with life's burdens. That may be an overanalyzation of what you bring, but that's how it was to me. And I was like, man, we need to create a show environment where you can introduce yourself to the world, and we can introduce new concepts. You can use the variety of experiences that you have and that we've had as a company, and benefit people that haven't had these experiences. And so I'm looking forward to where this can go. And I thought, what better way to introduce the show than introduce the host, and let you take it from here.
Well, I definitely enjoy teaching, and it's not like I set out to be a teacher. I get excited about discoveries I make, and I want to tell people. Like sometimes they don't want to hear it, but that's fine. But then the challenge is, how do you impart what you've learned in a way that's easily understandable? I can't say that I know how to do that yet, but I do. I fundamentally am excited about what I'm talking about many times, because it was at some point it was a revelation to me learning it, and it was like, wow, this is totally cool.
I think I have a kind of going back to my comment about preachers, they're preaching whether they have a pulpit or not. I think God wires us in certain ways where you don't even realize when you're exercising a gift that other people experience, and you don't have to put a lot of effort into it. Like when you would do a video on how our garbage disposal works and how to diagnose a problem, you assume that the audience didn't know anything about a garbage disposal, and you started at the very basic level. I think a lot of times we get older and we think that people will expect us to already know something, and so we don't ask questions. And so I think it's helpful when you start at the building blocks and give people the freedom to not know things and become educated by what you can provide. And I think it's a unique talent to be able to teach. Like teachers, it's a gift. It's not everybody can teach, but there's a component of sales, like where you make it interesting. Because you're interested and excited about it, you bring the audience along with you, and we become excited about what you're excited about. And, seeing, it could be a musician, it could be an artist, it could be, whenever you see somebody operating in their God-given talent, I think it's actually what we see. You may not know it, but it's not the talent that is really what's mesmerizing. It really points to the one who gave the talent. And that's true. I think there's something about us that when you hear a voice, everyone can make noise out of their mouth. But when you hear people that actually have a top tier talent, you hear their voice. There's something inside you is like, that's not from around here. That person they may hone in that skill with training and practice, but the origin of that thing is not them. And I think it's awe-inspiring. It's just you want to watch more of it. And so, I think, in business and life, I think we start out where it doesn't start with passion. We learn these building blocks. We go left, we go right. We find what we like, what we don't like. And then as years go by, you start seeing like, okay, how does my natural desire and gifting line up with what's in front of me?
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a book that says that to enjoy, have passion in what you do. It's actually a gift from God. It is actually a gift, that in and of itself. And so I think that's also part of what draws an audience in, is seeing that gift, because the nature of a gift is not everyone has it. And so I think there's a lot of people that are discontent with what they do on a daily basis, and so their experience of their job, or, whatever they spend their time doing, it's more pain and grumbling. And so when you see somebody who genuinely enjoys what they do, there's something inside of us that's like, that's a gift. And so I think when I heard you doing your chart analysis on your own free time, I heard the gift. And I think it's in that freedom that you have something to offer other people. And I think you now have the industry expertise, connected to the real estate industry in our company. I just think you have a lot to offer, and I think it's exciting to see kind of where that goes.
Well, to me, it's definitely a learning experience, and I feel like I don't necessarily have a gift sometimes. I'm just excited about learning what I'm learning, and I want to tell others.
Yeah.
So, the nitty gritty becomes enjoyable once you kind of get excited about stuff. So, I feel like every day that passes, I learn something new in how to communicate better. Communicating is not, it's not an easy thing. Articulating clearly an idea can be complicated. I'm finding that out.
I failed freshman English. I spent my whole life, younger years, I couldn't write. English was so difficult for me because I'd focus so much on having a perfect sentence, and I couldn't connect one perfect sentence to the next. And there was some point in my college life that it was like a gift, because it was foreign to me, where all of a sudden, instead of focusing on that one sentence, I just wrote my voice. I just talked and wrote how I would talk. And it's not, perfect grammatical English, but something got unlocked and made what was once difficult easy.
Interesting.
And I think, just the ability to speak concisely in a way that other people can understand, that is a gift in of itself. And, I've heard teachers that put a lot of word count in the air and you have no idea what they're saying. And then there's other people who speak and exactly what they're trying to get across. It's very easy to digest and it's enjoyable. And so I think it's a combination of gifting and learning and practice. And, I think I'm excited to go along the process with you to watch you grow in this, and, introduce new people to the world and explore different topics that I think are really interesting. I think there's, we're in a very unique time in history where, we've underbuilt housing, and we've got interest rates that are going all over the place, and we've got pricing in the housing market that has skyrocketed. And there's lots of things to analyze that, I think on the news, they oftentimes want to make it a very linear
Mhm.
If this happens, then this will happen.
Mhm.
But the reality is it's multi-dimensional.
Yes. Very true.
And so, if we can bring out those different dimensions and make it easy to understand and, track it on a semi-regular basis, then we can help other people understand, what they need to be concerned about,
Mhm.
what might be a good place to invest, when to listen to the news and when not to. And so I think there's just a lot of topics in the realm of real estate that will be fun to dive into.
I agree. I would say that the time we are living in now it's a very interesting time, and um, there's a lot going on. And what I like about charts is that it reflects all that, and you can tie things together by looking at them. It's actually fascinating the way the chart can, if you let it speak, it can kind of really clue you in to some really interesting things.
I've always been told, like my wife Tiffany, she'd tell me like, hey, you should what do they call it? The male version of having a diary is what, a journal?
Journal, I
Yeah,
guess,
journal. And I'm like, I don't got time. I can't sit down and write. I'm too. I want to like write all the details, so it takes forever, and then it becomes homework. So then she buys me an app where I can dictate and then it writes it down.
That's cool.
Still feels like homework though. I'd rather just tell other people and hopefully they remember and hopefully the stories continue. So, but we've done for our private equity funds, we've had to put investment decks together, and in doing that, going through that process, we've kind of studied where did we start? Where did Green Residential start in 2011? And then year by year, how many properties from a third party management standpoint, how many were we adding? What did the growth look like? And I think it was, to me, a financial journal. And it was really cool because, I believe that God is my provider. And that's a big concept. But then to be able to look at a chart and see that provision,
Yeah.
And it was like the chart, it was like, wow,
Yeah.
I hadn't quantified.
It really is a journal.
Yeah.
It's a journal. It records, maybe not. I mean, it can record your feelings and emotions too. Like in the stock market, it's really people acting on fear and greed, and that's reflected in the chart. To me, I find it fascinating just looking at it. It's going through history and just there's so many cool things you can pull out if you give yourself the opportunity to kind of just let the chart show you. Just examine it, kind of get rid of preconceived ideas, and you can discover some really cool things. And so yeah, I definitely think a chart is a journal in many aspects. It's what people went through. It's a progression. It's a story.
Yeah. It's a story, and if you have the right skills to extrapolate what that story is, you can learn a lot. So yeah, I'm excited, Justin. I think I'm just excited to see where this goes and the different topics we can explore. And yeah.
Well, I'm excited too, and I hope you guys are excited. We're excited to produce some really cool, fun, interesting content that I believe is going to help you as well. Have a good day, and see you on the next video.